Hello. This is See You Next Time. How delightful to have you join us as we walk once again through the ever-encroaching decay of r/do I remind people of Piers Morgan. We've got some real Morgans to get your judgment teeth into today. Crappy fathers, coercive husbands, and all-round disgusting humans. It's all here waiting for you. So why not do some of that liking, commenting, and subscribing you're so very fond of? This one's from C Purpose. Am I goddamn twat-tastic for telling my son he needs to live with the consequences of ignoring what his children were saying? My son lost his first wife when their 2 children were preschoolers. My grandson is now 17 and my granddaughter almost 16. Their relationship with my son has been on a downward spiral for years. It started when he and his current wife moved in together. She had 2 kids of her own, and early on they showed extreme jealousy whenever their mum would pay attention or buy anything for my grandkids. They were older, teenagers, and said a number of cruel things to my grandkids. My grandkids told my son, they told my wife and I, and we spoke to our son, but he ignored all 4 of us. My wife also spoke to my son's second wife, prior to the wedding, and she said that her kids would adjust in time. My grandkids spent years living with 2 much older kids who told them they deserved to have a dead mum. Deserved to have a dead mum, bloody hell. And that she had wanted to die because nobody would want them around. They accused them of stealing from them because their mum shouldn't be doing anything for them. There were incidents where they broke the stuff their mum bought my grandkids. My wife and I pleaded with our son to do something to help his kids. We said that they didn't deserve to be raised like that. Goddamn right. The problems continued even after the older kids moved out. They still expressed a lot of jealousy and hatred for my grandkids. I never interacted much with my son's stepkids. I saw them a handful of times in the years my son has been married to his current wife. They would mostly go to their dad if my son and his wife were spending time with us or any of our other kids, or they would reject offers to spend time with us. But the few times I did see them, I was always shocked by how blatant their hate of my grandkids was, and how my son never appeared to care. One incident in particular stands out. It was my granddaughter's birthday, and she got some art kit she had wanted. It set off the 2 older kids, who called her a bitch baby, and they even broke part of the kit. My wife and I spoke up to our son and his wife, but they did nothing and said nothing. My grandkids now spend a lot of time with myself and my wife. They hardly speak to their dad despite living under his roof. They wanted us to get custody of them, but we were denied. So they have taken to doing their best to make it through the next couple of years. My son is only now starting to care that the relationship with his kids has been destroyed. He asked me why we tried to fight for custody of the kids when he's their dad, and he accused my wife and I of turning the kids against him. This is when I stopped him and said we didn't turn them against him. He is just living with the consequences of ignoring what his kids were telling him. I told him he'd put them through years of bullying so he could marry and stay married, and now he has to live with his decision. My son ranted at me and said that the last thing any parent should do is try to make their kid feel shitty about themselves, which is what I was doing. Am I goddamn twat-tastic? I mean, wow, it's almost impressive to be that much of a cretin. OP's son surely must get some kind of award. Obviously, date and marry who you want, but surely, no matter how miraculous the punani...
Hear me now, ride the punani, ride the punani. Nice, good acoustic.
Somewhere along the line, you have to factor in how the families get along. The phenomenal dad of our story decided to completely ignore the fact that his own flesh and blood were being bullied, really nastily by the way, by his stepkids. Rather than deal with this early doors, when a relatively minor intervention may have sorted this out, he's allowed it to fester over years in order to keep the peace. Essentially, he's let his kids go through years of psychological degradation just because he didn't want to have an awkward conversation. Pathetic. I'm completely unsurprised that the kids now want nothing to do with him. And the dad trying to lay the blame at OP's door is a masterstroke in narcissistic fuckwittery. So no, OP, you were not goddamn twat-tastic, but your son is a puss-filled boiled on a tatty arsehole.
Frankly, you just got a very tatty arse.
This one's from Apprehensive Cut. Am I an absolute spunk nugget for calling my friend's boyfriend a disgusting human? My friend Jessie has been with a guy, Daniel, for 2 years now. We all come from the same background, and when she first introduced him to me, I was dating my ex-boyfriend who's from a different cultural background. Daniel told me that I would burn in hell for dating him, and that I'm a whore for it. Jessie did stand up for me, but told me that Daniel is just joking. That obviously left a bad taste in my mouth, but I tried to see the good in him whilst also keeping my distance. The other day I was talking to Jessie and she told me that Daniel told her that after marriage, once Jessie is old, wrinkly and ugly, he's gonna start seeking out 18-year-old girls. That turned into an argument between them, which resulted in Daniel apologising for what he said, but then justified it by saying that all men think this way. I immediately told her that Daniel is a disgusting and shallow person for even thinking this, and that not all men think the way he thinks. I also told her that if I were in her place, I'd break up with him. Jessie snapped at me and said that as sad as it sounds, it's the truth, and statistically, older men seek younger girls. She told me that she'll never open up to me because all I do is critique their relationship. Am I an absolute spunk nugget for calling Daniel a disgusting and shallow person? Interesting one this. But first and foremost, Daniel sounds like an absolute dream of a guy, and you should obviously burn in hell for insulting him, you whore. Obviously your mate Jessie has grown rather attached to him, and while that may come to bite her in the ass...
My mate Paul met this Italian couple whilst he was backpacking, and they invited him back to their room for a threesome. And they gave him some LSD, and when they got there, the bloke one pulled a screwdriver on him and made him shit in his own shoe and eat it, whilst the woman one filmed it. And that's a side of drug use that Paul McCartney doesn't sing about, isn't it?
It's hardly surprising that she's rushing to his defence. And, in fairness, the stereotype of old men lusting after young girls is a stereotype because there's some truth in it. Perhaps not a huge amount, but some. However, the fact that he was willing to throw that at his girlfriend actually has me doubting my initial impression of him as a dream guy. If you really are constantly bitching about Daniel, you do clock up some arsehole points, and it's probably a good idea to keep your mouth shut if you want to keep Jessie as a friend, regardless of how much of a dick he is. Hopefully she'll see the light before they get married, but it's rare that you can disillusion someone if they think the sun shines out of their partner's arse. Let's say 25% spunk nugget, and Daniel is sounding less dreamy by the second. This one's from Rennie Stone 27. Am I a decomposing gimp for not wanting to tell my husband what I discuss in therapy? I just started therapy and it's been really good so far. It's only been a handful of sessions. Yesterday, after my appointment, my husband demanded to know if I had discussed him or our marriage to the therapist. He wanted to know what I had told him. I became really upset. This was supposed to be my time to get help, and I don't want to feel he is trying to control this too. Yes, he is a big reason I'm going to therapy, and he knows it. He also knows once I eventually start talking about him and our marriage, it may destroy us. It feels like he took this one bright spot in my life and is trying to manipulate it to suit him. And no, I didn't tell him anything. First, nothing to tell yet, and second, this isn't about him. So, am I a decomposing gimp? What? And to add to that, the fuck? It appears that husband is a twattish, controlling basket of spunk. In fairness, I can kind of understand why he's fretting. He's worried about what's going to come out in therapy, and perhaps he wants to get a heads up on exactly when his wife is going to leave him. Yeah, 0% gimpishness for OP. And, 70% for husband? This one's from Practical Ad 426. Am I a fucked up ridiculum for not asking my fiancé for permission to go to a concert? Okay. I'm a 24-year-old woman and have been with my 25-year-old fiancé for a little over 2 years. Now, I'm usually the type of girlfriend to stay home on a Friday night, and I can say that my life is rather boring, which to me is bliss, since I like it that way. My fiancé and I have a mutual friend group, and today one of our friends asked me if I wanted to go to a Faye Webster concert. I said yes, since I've never been to a concert, and immediately was excited. This friend, for the purpose of the story I will call K, is the newest addition to our friend group. We met him in our last year of college. I was his first friend since he had huge troubles adapting since he moved to the States. At first it was just me, but then my fiancé and best friend started hanging out with him too, so he's not an unfamiliar figure. He got the tickets as a deal and had one remaining, so he asked me, since in this friend group he is closest to me. Excited, I told my fiancé this news on our evening walk. Immediately he started fuming and told me that I'm not allowed to go, since I didn't ask him for permission first. I was bummed out, since to me this news was exciting, and me being not allowed was a slap in the face. Suddenly, it felt like I was a little kid again being punished by my parents. Here's where I think I might be the arsehole. Maybe I should have brought it up as a question first, rather than just telling him. I feel bad for making him so upset, but I am still at a loss here. Yes, I am engaged, but not imprisoned, and it was the first time I had ever asked to go somewhere like that without him. Every time we've had a conversation since then, it just ends up being the continuation of a fight. I just feel like, as an adult, I need to have the freedom to be able to go somewhere without him. What do you think? Am I a fucked up ridiculum? Well, we're getting him in today, aren't we? You know, if the boyfriend had responded that he didn't want OP going with another guy, or it was a question of spending money when they're skin, or if he really wanted to go to the concert, I might have had some sympathy. Hell, even if he was just like, I would have preferred you check with me before saying yes, I'd maybe cut him some slack. But to outright say she doesn't have his permission is boom boom boogaloo bonkers. Fuck this guy. It's very telling that the OP is second guessing herself and wondering if she should have asked rather than told. It's such a sign of serious problems in the relationship. I've seen this stuff on TV. I know all about it. OP 0% fucked up ridiculum. Boyfriend 90% dickhead. Well, wasn't that just a barrel of laughs? And if, perhaps, I've brought a smile to the face of a single person, or made someone think just a little deeper about life, I've done too much. I retract any joy, whimsy, or insight I may have inadvertently put out into the world. And remember, most importantly, the fantastic, free-spirited, and felonious girl in my head informs me that by lining your kill room with good quality polyethylene sheeting, you can recover any spilled blood and sell it on to, people who like that sort of thing. See you next time.